Start over? Okay, calling the Committee on Ordinances, regular meeting, Monday, June 29, 2020, to order upon the rise of the public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Chairwoman Ryan.
Present.
Vice Chairwoman Castillo.
Present.
Councilman Narducci.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Harris. Councilwoman Harris is absent. Councilor Miller.
Present.
Have 4 present and 1 absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect, we have Councilwoman Anthony, Councilman Espinal, and Councilwoman LaFortune with us this evening. Anyone else there? Okay. We also are graced by the attendance of Solicitor Eddie Schwab, Policy Director Sean Bouchard, Clerk Jen Emity, and Tina Mastriani is running the meeting, running the show. Okay, let's start with item 1. Could you kindly read that into the record, Madam Clerk?
Petition from Edward Small, President, Smart Princeton Hotel Group, LLC, requesting a zone change for the property located at 201-217 Angel Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02906, Assessors Plat 13, Lot 52, 53, and 55, from RP to a C2.
Okay, so this matter is only on this agenda to set a public hearing. May I have a motion to set a public hearing for item 1?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Narducci, seconded by Vice Chair Castillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Motion passes. Okay. Clerk, could you kindly read item 2 into the record?
Petition from Dylan Conley Esquire, Lamont Outdoor Advertising, requesting to amend Article 20, Section 2005, entitled Non-Conforming Signs.
Okay. Do I need to enter those letters? Okay, so I need a motion to enter the letters that we already entered for the public hearing, but we need to enter them for this matter as well. So may I have a motion to enter the letters we received? Opposed to this, motion made by Vice Chair Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Okay, so we have the letters matter. Okay.
Yes.
Bob Azar, could you please start us off on this item? Please
Yes.
explain what this is about, what this does, please.
Okay, once again, this would create a mechanism whereby the owner of a billboard, otherwise known as a non-conforming off-premise sign, could convert that static image into an electronic message sign, which is one that could be controlled remotely, and it's like a screen that emits light. The message could be changeable in that it could be static for a period of time and then change, but it can't be animated. We wouldn't allow that for electronic message signs. The mechanism that this ordinance would establish is one where, by special use permit, the owner of other signs throughout the city could abandon an equivalent square footage equating to the amount of signage that is proposed to be converted to an electronic message sign. And that would be done by approaching the zoning board and applying for a special use permit. This has been reviewed by the law department, and the language has been found to be consistent with the Zoning Enabling Act, and it could be enacted without causing legal issues. The City Plan Commission has issued a favorable recommendation for this item.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Council Vice Chair Castillo would like to speak. Please, you have the mic.
Yes. First of all, I want to know what is the position for the police department in that matter. we have something for the police department, like, you know, like report. And if we don't, you know, have a concern about, because I saw a lot of people distraction in the highway, and this board can cause more accident like we got right now. So I really have a concern about this, and I want to know if we have any police report, like they opposed or they supported this signboard in the highway and everywhere. So please, it's like that, let me know, because I
So
really have.
you're concerned about safety, and you're
Yes.
asking if the police have opined regarding safety. Maybe Mr. Azar can help us with that. Was there a analysis as part of the CPC review, regarding highway safety, elements or components? No?
No, there was not. The police department did not weigh in. The one condition that the Plan Commission included in their recommendation was that these signs be no more distracting than the static billboards. I think the one thing that we discussed through this process was that there are currently some electronic message signs. There's I believe one already in Providence on Route 146 southbound, and then on other stretches of highway in the vicinity of Providence, you see these occasionally, some in Rhode Island, some in Massachusetts. And I think the way we were looking at this is that you should judge for yourself if those billboards are more distracting. I can say that personally, I notice them when they're there. I find that during certain times of the day, they can appear a little bit more bright than a traditional static billboard, but at other times of the day, they seem to be about the same brightness. They do change every 10 seconds or so, and consistent with federal regulations. So you might see more than one message as you're passing by. I think this is certainly something that the petitioner would find to be in their advantage, so that they could, so that motorists could see more than one message. And also it would be easier for them to change the message. One thing from the standpoint of public safety and information, I believe that Lamar has indicated a willingness to put public service announcements on the billboards from time to time at the request of public sector officials. I would defer to the petitioner on that. But I think that was the extent of the discussion about safety.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councilman Castillo?
As the I have the other concern are in case that be approved by the council, and we started to see that billboard is cause accident, we have a choice to remove this billboard.
Mr. Azar? Is anyone prepared to answer that? Mr. Azar?
So what I could say is that if this mechanism goes into effect, then it wouldn't be automatic. The owner of the signs would have to go to the public hearing process through the zoning board of review, and they would be either granted or denied their petition. If it were granted, then that would be the conversion to electronic messages would be legal, and the council could change the ordinance back. You could reverse your decision, but once the zoning board has approved a particular special use permit, you would not be able to revoke that. I will say that these signs will be governed also by state and federal regulation. The state DOT, any of these signs are going to be governed by the state DOT because they're all going to be visible from state or federal highways. So there are federal and state regulations governing these as well.
Can we hear from the petitioner at this point?
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Dylan Conley on behalf of Lamar. Specific to safety and to build off of Mr. Azar's point, the council passing this doesn't guarantee that we'll be able to have these conversions. We still have to apply for a special use permit and meet standards in front of the zoning board. Specific to safety, the state of Massachusetts and the Federal Highway Administration have both performed studies regarding the safety of these billboards in comparison to standard billboards. And they find that there is no distinction in safety between a standard billboard and one of these electronic billboards. There was a question earlier about the energy related to the billboards. These are LEDs, which are relatively efficient. It's my understanding they're plugged into the grid. My client can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just the standard national grid electricity that's being provided. This is something that we've been working with the city on, with various departments and various levels of administration for over 3 years now. The present language that we've come to has been after serious and consultations with planning, the solicitor's office, different officials. And what we believe we've come to is an agreement, not an agreement, but an opportunity where the city benefits from the removal of signage in neighborhoods where there is pedestrian traffic, where there are residences that have visible signs. And in exchange, existing signs on highways become digital. So there are no new signs, neighborhood signs come down. I would argue that net safety would be improved because you have less signage in areas where there are pedestrians. But I don't have a study to that effect. And generally speaking, these sorts of signs have been supported, again, by the state of Massachusetts. We have these signs in East Providence. I believe there's one coming online in Pawtucket. There's one on 146 in Providence already. I have nothing to indicate that it's caused any additional strife along 146. And there are many in the Boston area, many in the Boston area. And there's been no studies indicating that they are a safety threat.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Did I see you waving, Mr. Narducci, Councilman Narducci?
Yeah, no, I just, Dylan basically just touched on it. I just wanted to bring up how we've had the one over here on 146 for quite a few years now. And I don't think it's created any type of unsafe situations or any type of accidents or anything that I have any knowledge of. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I would just like to take this opportunity to point out, we mentioned it in the public hearing, but the CPC did make a number of recommendations when they passed this, or they recommended that the council pass it, that the boards would not be visible from residential zones. The ordinance should be amended to be more specific about brightness of electronic signs to ensure they are no brighter or no more distracting than non-electronic signs, and that the ordinance should state that any altered sign would continue to be considered non-conforming. So all of those changes were addressed in what is before us tonight for passage. And I know this has been a long haul, but the reality is I just want all of the council members that are voting on this evening to understand that this is a mechanism to allow for this type of signage, and that it has to go through the zoning, Board of Zoning for a special use permit. So this isn't opening the door for the boards per se, because they do need to have a special permit. So I just wanted to clarify that. We do have some hands raised, so let's go with Councilman Espinal. Councilman Espinal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. I know that we mentioned federal and state regulators. What are their opinions? Have they weighed in on this? I guess my question will be to the proponent, Mr. Dillon.
Yes. They are allowed in the state. They're allowed in the state subject to a series of rules that are at least as restricting as the federal guidelines. They are allowed in the country. The studies that have been performed at the federal level, again, indicate that they are equivalent in terms of level of distraction between standard signs. The only measurable distinction between level of distraction of these lit signs and standard signs is less than half of the blink of an eye. So it's scientifically just no distinction at all in terms of levels of distraction. So from a safety standpoint, that's what we have. I will say not the Rhode Island state level, but again, at the Massachusetts state level, they did a pilot program where they studied the traffic data surrounding signs that were changed to digital and signs that weren't changed to digital in a pilot program. The Massachusetts study found that there was no distinction between the digital signage and the standard signage. Councilman, there is a sign in your district that we actually, I believe it's in your district, we changed the language on because when we studied it, the top portion of one of the billboards was visible from the third floor of a series of residences. So we had to actually change the language so that we would tilt the sign away from the residential areas. So the net impact on the residential areas around the National Grid station off of 95 South near Melrose is the signs will no longer face residences. They presently do to a slight degree, but they will no longer as a result of this proposal.
Thank you.
And the study information you have, it's from Massachusetts, not in Rhode Island though, right?
No specific studies have been performed in Rhode Island other than the fact that Rhode Island has adopted the same standards as the federal safety guidelines. And Rhode Island has already approved other signage. So the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, not to speak for them, but they haven't done anything distinct from the federal level or from the state of Massachusetts. So, it appears that they are of at least a comparable opinion.
And then just the last question, how many signs are you looking to install?
So our original application included 3 locations and 4 total sign faces. I will say very candidly that right now, as a result of the coronavirus, the pandemic, changes in advertisement, changes in traffic, we don't know exactly where that will end up. But again, this isn't an approval of those 3 locations or those 4 signs. It's just an approval of a process that allows us to submit to the zoning board. So we won't be able to do anything until we have a very detailed plan. That will include presentations on lighting, safety. Mr. Azar touched upon our lighting. The lighting dims in real time based on ambient light. So, if it's a stormy day, the lights dim. As the sun goes down, the lights dim. They're immediately responsive to our environment in a way that our present signs are not. Also, I believe alluded to earlier was our capacity to do things like amber alerts, which you can do with digital, which obviously you can't do with standard vinyl signage. So we hope to provide that benefit to the city.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Councilman.
Councilwoman Miller, I apologize, I didn't see your hand up. As a member of the committee, do you have any thoughts, concerns, or questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman, no worries. I guess I would start by saying, I've just been considered billboards to be like a form of pollution since I first drove, across the country when I was 17 on a camping trip and realized the impact they make on the landscape. That said, I think that this proposal takes a lot of that into account. I think it gives the city an opportunity to remove some of the neighborhood billboards that haven't served us for a very long time, and I look forward to removing. I'm curious about, Bob, could you talk a little bit more about what the actual process is? Like how a special use permit is granted and like what the requirements are and what the approval or denial is based on?
Yes, so the special use permit is just like an application for a zoning variant. There's a form, there's documentation requirements, and when the item comes before the zoning board, it has to be advertised in the newspaper, and it has to be advertised to abutters within 200 feet. So anybody owning property within 200 feet of one of these locations would get a notice. And then you'll see within the ordinance amendment itself, there are a series of criteria that have to be met in order for the permit to be granted. There are also some very general special use permit criteria already in the zoning ordinance that speak about consistency with the comprehensive plan and not devaluing neighborhood property and so forth. The applicant would also have to submit evidence that fits with those criteria. That usually happens during the course of the hearing through expert testimony, testimony of the individuals who are proposing this, and also land use experts, real estate experts, sometimes other types of, there might be someone who specializes in lighting, for example. Anything where they need to demonstrate to the board's satisfaction that these criteria are all met. And then if the board feels that the applicant has satisfactorily met the criteria, they'll vote to approve. If they don't, then they'll vote to deny.
Thank you. So just one follow-up. So there would be a public hearing for each specific instance where this might happen?
Yeah, there would be. We sometimes see these packaged together. We've seen this with, for example, companies that want to put in cell tower antennae, and they'll have several different locations. There will be, in effect, a hearing on each one of those locations. The hearings will look, pretty much exactly the same. And sometimes there's a little bit of a consolidation just for the economy and the amount of time it takes, but it's effectively a separate hearing for each one of the locations.
Thank you.
I think you're all set, Councilwoman Miller. Okay, how about Councilwoman Anthony? We see her hand raised.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just had a follow-up question for Mr. Azar. So I'm sorry, I'm I'm not quite understanding the ordinance. This will allow the digital billboards, is that correct? The amendment to the ordinance?
It would allow someone who currently owns a billboard to apply to the zoning board for a special use permit to be allowed to convert that billboard no bigger into an electronic message sign.
So just to follow up, so that existing billboards, and I understand the swap that Lamar is proposing for theirs, but then everyone else who isn't every other billboard not owned by Lamar will be able to come in and apply to digitize their billboard?
You can, anybody can apply, but they have to, the applicant has to own sufficient other signage within the city that they can abandon on a per square foot basis in order to be eligible to take advantage of the special use permit.
So would you have any idea of how many other companies have that number of billboards, so they might be eligible to do the same thing?
As far as I know, there are none.
Okay. So this is a Lamar specific project. I guess the only thing I'd like to say is
Can I just interrupt, Councilman Anthony, just a second? I believe Mr. Conley wanted to answer your question that you posed. So let's hear from Mr. Conley. Could you answer that question?
Chairwoman. And if I may, Councilwoman, not to interrupt, but just to answer your question, as a portion of this project, we did a study on the total number of signs that would be legally eligible for this proposal. There were 4 sign locations in the entire city which would be legally eligible, and Lamar owns all 4 of them.
Okay.
In addition, as commented by Mr. Azar, Lamar is, to our knowledge, the only company in the city that has sufficient signage to take down. So the limited population is strictly in industrial zones facing major highways. And so there's only 4 signs in the entire city, 4 sign locations in the entire city that meet that threshold.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. Conley, Attorney Conley. So I guess I just would like to just say that I too have concerns that were voiced by Ms. Perry, also Councilwoman Castillo. I just don't think, I think this is a bad trade for the city of Providence. I think digital billboards are very much pollution. I think this is a historic city. I think it's a beautiful city. I don't like the fact we're comparing ourselves to Massachusetts in this regard. I think we should be a leader in, honestly, I'm really not a proponent of billboards at all, but just to make them digital, even if they're not changing. And I know there are studies been done that say that it doesn't affect safety or distract any drivers. I just think it's pollution. And I think it's light that we don't need. And I just think this is a sad thing to have in our city at all. So I just am here to voice my opposition to this.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comments, concerns, questions on this matter? I'd like to hear from our solicitor, Etty Schwab. Can you please advise this committee once again, the solicitor's office has reviewed the ordinance and it conforms with our zoning enabling acts, and that the solicitor is favorable toward this. Could you please opine in that regard?
Certainly, Madam Chair. To the extent that the passage of the ordinance is something that the City Council absolutely could do, and this committee could make that recommendation, the council can make that passage. Lisa Ditterman did work on the revision of this ordinance and at its current state, and it holds muster as a result. As you know, the solicitor is not that policy, so whether or not he has an opinion as to that, you have to ask him.
Okay. Great. Okay. Without Councilwoman Miller?
I just see Councilor LaFortune's hand is up. I just wanted to.
Okay. Councilwoman LaFortune. Councilwoman LaFortune?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo Councilwoman Anthony's concerns, and also Councilwoman Castillo's. Although there are studies out there that may indicate that it's not a distraction, I do think that it can cause major issues. It's not very cost effective. And I agree. It's not aesthetically. It doesn't aesthetically align with the structure of our city. And I would also hope that the committee opposes this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Committee, do I have a motion? What's the pleasure of the committee?
I would make a motion to pass.
Motion made to pass this ordinance. May I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made by Councilman Narducci, second by Councilwoman Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. Councilwoman Castillo is opposed. Okay. So this matter, the recommendation of the ordinance committee, the majority of the ordinance committee, is to pass. This will go to the full council for a full vote. I encourage the petitioners to continue to lobby for your effort because you need a majority of the council to pass this matter. I thank you. I would like, on behalf of the city, to apologize for you for the length of time that this has taken to get us to this point. I want to thank you for your patience I know how hard you've worked to address the challenges that have been put before you. And I want to just say thank you for sticking with it and working so diligently and forthright with our planning department and our solicitor's office. So thank you, and good luck going forward. Okay, so that concludes item 2. Item 3, Madam Clerk, would you kindly read that into the record?
In ordinance to amendment of chapter 27 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Providence, entitled the City of Providence zoning ordinance approved November 24th, 2014, as amended to change certain text in Article 12 regarding the incinerator waste facility use category.
We have a sub-A.
We do
Okay.
have a sub-A.
May I have a motion to, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We have a sub-A on this matter. May I have a motion to accept sub-A? Motion made by Vice Chair Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Okay, so, Councilman Espinal, are you with us?
Yeah.
Would you like to speak on this matter?
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chair. As stated before, what this amendment does, it takes care of the concerns that were raised by the local authority, by the city, but it also addresses the needs for change in our community to ensure that we have a safer environment. It goes away with the facility, waste facility. It amends that section. We originally had on the waste facility, where it could be operated by a state or local facility, or for a state or local facility. So what that does, it eliminates the or 4, so that the definition of waste facility would be a facility for the processing of waste, including sewer, disposal facility or solid waste, transfer operated by state or municipal facility agency. So that takes care of that part, where you will not have a private entity to come in and have a solid waste transfer station in our city. It also eliminates the incinerator portion of this, which is something that we were looking for. So it adds, under H, it adds I, which is the waste incinerator facility. And the way that it is described, it's as a waste incinerator facility, it's a facility that disposes of treats and processes or recycle solid waste and medical waste through combustion, gasification, or pyrolysis, or exposes solid waste of medical waste to temperature above 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, Madam Chair, this is a good amendment. As I said, it addresses the issues that the community had. It maintains the facilities that are already being used by our local government, and it also makes sure that our environment is safer, is cleaner, and it protects the future of our people in the city of Providence. It's a good amendment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councilwoman Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yeah, I just want to thank Councilman Espinal for his leadership on this issue. It's so needed and past time, and you know, we've been talking about air quality and impacts on families and especially children in Washington Park and the South Side for many years. And so I just want to thank him for his leadership and urge my committee colleagues to support this.
Great. Bob, I neglected to give you an opportunity to speak on this matter. I usually lead off with you. Is there anything more you'd like to share or put on record regarding this?
No, Madam Chair, I think Councilman Espinal stated it exactly right, and we're in favor of adoption of this.
Thank you, Mr. Azar. Councilwoman Anthony. You're muted, Councilwoman. You're muted.
I just wanted, thank you so much, Chairwoman. I just wanted to thank Councilman Espinal for taking this action and proposing this amendment. You know, since the councilman has taken a seat, I think he's done a great job of bringing to light the problems in his neighborhood in that particular area. I know it's zoned industrial, so that a lot of very heavy use projects are allowed by right in that area, but I hope this is the first step of many steps to actually clean up some of what's going on down there so that we can improve the air quality and the quality of life for the surrounding community. So thank you so much.
Okay, good one. Solicitor Schwab, are you still with us? Can you opine on this? Have you reviewed it? Or is this in good shape, ready to be passed?
I have not been given the opportunity to review the sub A, but my understanding is that it did go through the process, and that I believe either Mr. Azar or Mr. Bouchard did talk to somebody in my office, but I'm not, I don't know exactly who.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bouchard. Have you reviewed this with the solicitor's office, the amendments?
So this matter was reviewed both with myself, Mr. Azar, and sent over to the solicitor's office. I have not heard any objection, however, not received a sign-off necessarily from the solicitor's office directly. I do know that this is a matter that would need to be signed off finally by Lisa Dinneman, who is the zoning expert within the solicitor's office. I'm happy to work with her if she had any additional comments. Okay, what I'd like to do at this point then is I think I'd like to move forward with a motion to approve as amended, but I would like to ask that our policy director work with the solicitor's office to get a final approval on this language. This is an important topic, and I too would like to join my colleagues in thanking Councilman Espinal for your leadership on this matter. It's extremely important and it's well done. I know that you you had some revisions along the way to get it just right. I want to thank Mr. Azar as well for working with Councilman Espinal in the policy office of the City Council on this really important topic. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve as amended requesting that the solicitor provide a positive opinion prior to the full vote. Is that okay with everyone? Can I have that motion? Motion made by Vice Chair Castillo, seconded by, who's going to second? Councilwoman Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you, Councilman Espinal. Okay, item 4, could you please read that, Madam Clerk, into the record?
In ordinance amending Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 50-11, residential parking standing of certain commercial vehicles.
Okay, so do we have a sponsor with us this evening? Yes. Council President Matos, are you with us?
Hello.
I knew you were there. So we are, we're talking about residential parking, standing of certain commercial vehicles. I understand that this was sponsored by you and Pro Tem Coria, and Espinal as well. I'm sorry, Councilman. Would you like to explain what your intention was with this ordinance?
Sure, and also I would like to speak on behalf of Pro Tem Coria, who cannot join us tonight. So we are being faced with a problem in the neighborhood, in the residential areas, in which several trucks have been parked overnight, and they're parked often, sometimes many hours, days, without being moved. So there seems to be a loophole that they are using, and that's why it's not clear that they should not be parked in the residential neighborhoods. We should not have trucks parked, and that's why we introduced this change to the ordinance.
Thank you. We have Providence Police Officer Joe Amoruso with us this evening. Would you like to speak about this ordinance, sir?
Thank you, Chairwoman. As the council president said, one of the obstacles that we had with the previous ordinance was that vehicles that were parked in like a mixed-use area. The old ordinance had us restricted to tagging these vehicles and addressing them only if they were in a regular residential area. So this is going to allow us to address a lot of this constituent complaints and just to be able to expedite the process and to try to get these commercial vehicles out of, away from the homes. Because part of the problem that we're having with them, these are large trucks. They have to keep the trucks running for the refrigeration units in the summertime. They have to keep them, warm to heat them up during the winter time. So the close proximity to the residents is causing a problem.
Okay. Committee members, any questions? Concerns, thoughts? Council Vice Chair Castillo, yes.
Okay, I want to thank Sabina and Correa and Pedro to put this together because I had that problem always in my neighborhood. I got a phone call about the truck in the street, and let's just get a solution for my constituent and for, release the police because we need to call the police. They block the driveway. We don't know, we can cause, some people accident when they try to get out the parking lot and the truck is in the middle so you can see anything. So thank you very much for put everything together because that's as I want in my concern in my neighborhood too.
Thank you very much. Councilman Espinal. I'm sorry, I didn't see that you were a sponsor on this.
That's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to rise again in support of this. It is really needed. I get a number of calls in my ward, and it's become a serious problem. This is the first step in correcting that problem. It gives the police the ability and the tools that they need in order to enforce it and make sure that we move in the right direction. Thank you so much, and I'm in full support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to thank Patrolman Amoroso for staying with us. I know it was a longer stint than you had planned on, but thank you for your patience. Anyone else like to entertain a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion made to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Narducci, seconded by Councilwoman Castillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your work on that. Okay.
Thank you.
5. Thank you, Council President. Item 5, Madam Chair, could you kindly read that, Madam Clerk? Thank you. Read it into the record. Thank you.
In order to amendment of Chapter 23 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Providence entitled Street Sidewalks and Public Places, Article 1, General Section 23-6, opening, excavating, etc. on, in, over, or under public roadway or sidewalk, as amended to add certain text regarding project coordination, status, and overall communication.
Okay, thank you very much. So I understand that there's more work that needs to be done on this matter and that there is a request to continue the item for additional research. Do we have anyone that would like to speak on this, or shall we just take a motion to continue?
Motion to continue.
Second motion.
Made by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor?
Madam Chairwoman?
Aye.
Sorry.
Have it. Motion passes. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairwoman. Once again, Councilwoman LaFortune's hand has been raised. Sorry, I didn't catch it. Motion.
Okay. Well, we've already voted on the matter. I did not see your hand, and I've been informed your hand was not up, but if you would like to speak on this, I will certainly allow that. So what would you like to say on this, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Chair. Yes, so I've been speaking with Sean, and we are continuing to work on it because we're going to make some amendments to it. But I just
Great.
wanted to give, I just wanted to provide just overall gist of it. And basically there's been just a lack of coordination between projects, whether it's sidewalk projects, street projects. In fact, just recently, this past week, our streets on a very active street was blocked. And when I contacted the DPW director, we found out that the contractor didn't even have a permit. And so the DPW director acted accordingly, and the contractor was fine. But we need to do better in terms of like coordinating these projects so residents as well as businesses are aware. There needs to just be a more transparent system where we can see if the contractors have actually obtained a permit. And also just to communicate to the local area so that people can prepare if the streets are going to be blocked off, so that they could reach out to their patrons if it's a business owner, and residents know so that they can plan accordingly. But thank you, and I hope that
That makes
we can
sense.
talk in further details when we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Seeing there's no more business before this honorable body, may I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Vice Chair Castillo, seconded by Councilman Narducci. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.